Hey guys, this video is a replay of a live that I did over on Unique Prepping last week. And it's about a 2-hour video. I was on there with Zach and Mike and Lord Sterling. And we were talking about how essential the ideas of critical thinking and free thinking are in just managing our daily lives and building a community. So take some time, watch it. Like I said, it's about 2 hours long. Don't feel like you have to eat it up all in one bite. If you're new to the channel, you make it to the end, you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and share it out. And just, hey, enjoy and go live a life done free.
Good evening, our wonderful community, and welcome to the 11th installment of Unique Prepping's community. On tonight's episode, we will be discussing why escaping the system and becoming free thinkers is the best way forward to living free. I'm your producer, host, and community member Unique Prepping, and with me are our community members Grumpy from Grumpy Acres Farm, Officer Hodges from Special Tactic Aid and Rescue, and Lord Sterling from Common Censored. In the description down below, I put the panel's channel links. Please go subscribe and keep our wonderful community growing. Before we begin, how are you guys doing this evening?
Doing good, Zach.
Good, Zach. How are you doing, brother?
That's good, and I'm doing good. Thank you for joining me on this important topic and why it's crucial in a world like we live in today. Escaping the system involves breaking free from societal norms and expectations that often limit individual thought and creativity. Many people find themselves trapped in routines and beliefs imposed by external influences, leaving little room for independent thinking. The system, in this context, refers to the various structures that dictate how people should live, behave, and think, often stifling true intellectual freedom. Becoming a free thinker requires a conscious effort to challenge the established norms and question the validity of widely accepted ideas. It involves cultivating a mindset that values curiosity, skepticism, and open-mindedness.
Bigly.
Free thinkers are
doing
not
well.
easily swayed by popular opinion or authority. They seek truth through their own reasoning and experiences. This approach to life allows individuals to develop a deeper understanding of the world and their place within it. Escaping the system is not without its challenges. It demands courage to go against the grain and face potential criticism or isolation. However, the rewards of becoming a free thinker are profound. Individuals who break free from the system often find a sense of liberation and empowerment, leading to a more authentic and fulfilling life. The journey toward free thinking is a continuous process of self-discovery and intellectual growth. It requires a commitment to lifelong learning and an openness to new perspectives. By escaping the system and embracing free thought, individuals can live more consciously and contribute to a society that values diversity of thought and true intellectual freedom. As this said, does anyone have anything to add before we
Nope,
get into
that's
the discussion?
end of the show, everybody. Nope, that's the end of the show. Thanks for watching.
All right,
Bye-bye.
have a good night, everybody.
Hey, Zach. Before we get into the questions, I want to lay some groundwork so people understand the conversation better. Okay. So whenever Zach invited us on, the email he sent out was about being free thinkers, and I started thinking about it, and I really didn't have a good grasp of what exactly a free thinker was. You know, I had this idea, and so I decided to look it up, and I found out that there's free thinking and free thinker and critical thinking and critical thinker are used interchangeably a lot, but they're completely different. They are completely different in definition and their approach to the way they view things. So this is kind of a broad definition that I've got of each one that I got from looking at a bunch of different sources. So a free thinker is someone who forms opinions based on reason. Remember that word. Remember the word reason, okay? Independent of tradition, authority, and established belief systems. They are not bound by dogmas, religious beliefs, or social or societal norms, and are open to exploring unconventional ideas. Okay, the definition of a critical thinker. The critical thinker is someone who analyzes, evaluates, and synthesizes information before forming a conclusion. They apply logical reasoning. Remember that word, logical. Question assumptions and use evidence to make a well-informed decision. Okay, so as I'm reading these, I come to understand the free thinking is more subjective. The word reason, I actually looked it up, and Oxford Dictionary defines it as the power of the mind to think, understand, and form judgments based by a process of logic. There is a close connection between reason and emotions. All right, that's a key one. Now we go down to the approaches, and this is kind of says the same thing, but it's a little bit more pinpointing. Okay, so the free thinker emphasizes personal freedom. Remember that word in thought, and rejects external constraints on what to believe. A free thinker values intellectual independence and may explore a wide range of ideas, even those considered controversial or outside the mainstream. Whereas a critical thinker prioritizes rigorous analysis and logical reasoning. A critical thinker systematically evaluates the validity and reliability of information, arguments, and ideas. So I'm going to say this. I don't think that there's anybody out there that is a pure free thinker. And I don't think that there's anybody out there that is a pure critical thinker. I think I much like, okay, take the republic as an example. So the United States is a republic, but we use democratic processes. So the republic can't function without those democratic processes. And just like those democratic processes do not give you the same safeguards that the republic can give you as an individual. The reason why I wanted to point out freedom, because freedom is man's ability to do as he pleases, whereas liberty is freedom tempered by morals and ethics. And I think anybody that looks at this from an unjaundiced point can understand that if you approach decision making without any morals or ethics, and using yourself as the only framework that you have, a lot of bad things can happen, right? The free thinker can come up with emotional ideas and unconventional ideas, but if there's nobody to sit there and say, hey, that's probably going to get a lot of people killed, they can run with it, and they can do some pretty evil stuff. Just like the critical thinker, the Terminator is a great example of critical thinking taken to an extreme. There's no morals there. There's nothing there to tell Skynet that killing billions of people is a bad thing, right? So I think we have to approach this with the understanding that there's got to be a moral framework of ethics and such behind our thought process. Okay, I wanted to get that out because we're going to talk. Some of your questions are really thought provoking, and you're going to hear both those terms used in it, and just understand that they're not interchangeable. Okay.
The same thing applies with individualism versus collectivism as well. Pure individualism would be total anarchy. So we get, if you think about the spectrum and the shape of a cone, the point of the cone would be individualism, and then collectivism would be the base, and there's autocracy, monarchy, socialism, communism, various styles of collectivism. But we're as close as we can get to the tip with just enough of a collectivist bend to have a safe society where we implement government, which is a form of collectivism. So there's no real true individualism versus pure collectivism either, at least not with our system. We're like a hybrid, leaning mostly towards individualism with a little bit of collectivism. The minimum possible government to provide securing individual liberty to the maximum, but you wouldn't be able to do that in pure individualism, anarchy, because factions would form and they would inevitably dominate individual rights of the minority groups, for sure. So yeah, really interesting take, Grumpy. That was awesome.
Thank you. And to run with your point, the Christian church in the form it's supposed to work is inherently communal. It is very communal, and the communality, is that right? I don't know, but that communalism is what brings the church body together. But it's without the church body, though, you can't have the individual worth of the person, right? Without the ethos of the church and the beliefs of the church, you can't have the individual worth beyond the communalism. And I think what you said was awesome, man. That was a really good take on it. Okay, that's it. I said my piece. I'm done. I'm leaving. Bye.
Later, Grumpy.
Right.
I got to go out on a high note, man.
Bye, Grumpy. Thanks for joining the show.
I'm probably going to say some stuff that make myself look really stupid later on. So I just wanted to quit on a high note, man.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. I just listened to both your opening statements, and I'm like, "Yep, I'm the dumb one up here." Thank you.
No way.
Well, no,
I might not be a smart man, but I know what to talk about.
Mike, I'm going to drop.
Life
I'm
is
going to drop
like a
dimes on
box of
Zach.
chocolates.
So Zach sent me the list of questions. He didn't send them to Mike, so Mike is coming into this absolutely cold.
Me too.
Yep.
Oh,
Unedited, unfiltered.
I just fly by the seat of my pants, man. Threeper, good to see you. Oh, Michigan Outpost 231, not Threeper. Sorry.
What's up?
Shout out.
What's Michigan?
I know that Ed, who's modding right now, Big Ugly, demands love from the hosts of every show he mods. So just giving a little bit of love to Ed out there. What's up, Ed?
What you got?
Z-Man inbound.
So here's what I want to do. When I start asking questions, let's start with the person in the bottom left and work counterclockwise. This way we can all get our answers in and we don't have to talk over each other. Also, I came up with UP out to end my answers. This is my way of not having people feel awkward if I have more to say since I have to break up long statements. Thank you. For the chat, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and share this video. It helps the community keep growing. If you have any questions about the discussion, please don't hesitate to ask. This is how we keep growing together.
Thank you for taking my request, Zach. I said I wanted to be last because I want to be able to feed off of everybody else. So I don't sound so dumb. I'm like, yeah, what he said. That's gonna be my answer. What he said. What he said.
Me too. What he said over there. Ordo ab KO. Where are you from,
Maybe
Mike?
It's like herding cats.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I live in Arkansas.
Arkansas, Connecticut here, and where are you, Grumpy? I remember you told me before.
Northeast Kansas.
Northeast Kansas and Colorado up top.
Yep.
All over the place today.
Yeah. But I'm in Oklahoma right now, so I've been
Question
everywhere,
number
man.
1. How does societal conditioning influence our thought patterns, and what steps can we take to recognize and challenge these ingrained beliefs?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. We're all being indoctrinated into various belief systems as soon as we pop out of the womb. From public education systems to controlled corporate media to parents who have been indoctrinated in a lot of cases. In my case, I was kind of born outside the box, so I never really bought into any of anything and just made up my own decisions. You know, we're taught this is a free country, but we free speech, one of the linchpins of the society. Yet we had the FCC censoring radio and TV for decades. So right off the bat, there was some cognitive dissonance for me trying to reconcile the differences between what they tell us America is and in practice what it really is. You're indoctrinated to think that taxes are normal. We didn't have income taxes at least until 1913. You're indoctrinated to think that Social Security is normal, that these collectivist systems that they impose on us are normal, and it's taught as being part of life in America, but it wasn't until relatively recently in terms of our overall timeline. So a lot of it comes down to the individual and being able to recognize the contradictions with which we are faced in regards to how they project America as it is supposed to be compared to what you see on the ground level and what you experience. So it all comes down to the power of your mind and your willingness to question authority and think for yourself, in my opinion, regardless of what institutions are trying to shape you into the image that they want Americans to fit into. So that's kind of my take on that. What do you think, Grumpy?
So you hit a lot of the stuff that I was thinking of. You know, the cultural norms, the culture that you're raised in has a lot to do with the way you think.
Right, like TV and stuff too.
I've been overseas. I've been to third world countries, and the way people think, the thought process is completely different in these places than we have in the Western world. Another one is prejudices. You know, the tribalism, the prejudice of tribalism, and the prejudice of stereotypes will influence the way you think, either positive or negatively towards these things. One thing you didn't mention: social pressure, especially as kids. Part of the problem today is, and I'm going to paint with a very wide brush, okay? Part of the problem with the younger generations is with media, social media, and everything. They are feeling way more social pressure than I ever felt as a kid. I know that just from dealing with my kids, and they're older now. And then, like you said, and this is the big one. This is probably the one that we have to fight the most is media and education, indoctrination. The presidential race. I'm going to talk about it. The way the media is portraying both sides is unreal, and it's influencing people's thought patterns and the way they think. So yeah, those are the things that I see as influencing the way we think the most. What about you, Mike?
I have to agree with both of you. It has to do. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I have to agree with both of you because, who was it? Eddie Griffith said it the best on one of his stand-ups. It's called television programming. They're programming you to these social norms. And Grumpy, I was going to say that too about social media. Like, I have never seen a rise of like the LGBTQ community unless they're influenced by TikTok and YouTube and all these influencers that are like, this is what you are, because these people are confused. And I would say that Denzel Washington said it the best. He said, if you do not read the newspaper, you're not informed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. You know, and because the media lies to you, and everybody thinks that they have to be in this. And nowadays, I know for a fact that people are afraid to go against the grain, especially in college campuses. Look at all these conservative kids that are going to college campuses because it is just liberals everywhere. And they're afraid because their professors are all liberal. You know, their classmates are liberal. The dean is liberal. If they do a paper on anything that is a conservative view, they're going to be chastised. If they speak out, you know, they're going to be chastised. They might even get a bad grade just because they might do a great report, but because the professors and we as society need to not be afraid of that anymore. Like what Zach said in the opening, that we need to go against the grain. Don't be afraid to go against the grain. Don't be afraid to go up to somebody and talk to them and challenge their ideas. And I think that's the biggest problem that we have nowadays I see it from both sides. That's why I call myself a centrist, because I'm kind of in the middle and I see the good and the bad on both sides. I see ideas that are good and bad on both sides, right? But you talk about one thing on one side, and they don't like to be challenged. You know, on the other side, they don't like to be challenged. But you need to kind of educate, and I always say, and we all know that there's always three sides to every story: his, hers, and the truth. And the way that I find the truth is I have to go to those sources that I know are lean one way or the other. I have to read both of them. And the things that are very similar in each story, I know, okay, well, there's the truth right there, because they're both saying the same thing. You know, everything else is probably their interpretation of it. So, you know, how do we do that? I've stopped watching the news. Really, I haven't watched the news in 7 years. The only way I get my news is friends of mine. Like Zach will text me and be like, "Hey, have you heard about this?" I'm like, "Nope," but I'll go check it out. You know, and that's what we need to do. We need to turn off the TV and just kind of like, you know.
You know, Mike, I've taken the opposite approach. Seriously, I read more. I pay attention to more news now than I used to. But you hit it exactly right. Different perspectives, man, and that's the reason why I read more news. I read a more diverse plate of news. I read a lot of foreign news. You know, foreigners reporting on America, on what's happening here. Sometimes the foreign news does a way better job than any news here in America, right? And Ground News used to be one of my favorite sites until they made it a pay site.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a pay site now, and I don't do subscriptions like that. But they did a really good job, because they would rate the news source and tell you where it's sat on the spectrum.
Yep, how much the left is covering it, how much the right is covering it. Some things don't get covered at all by the left. Some things get covered only a little by the right. And as far as TV programming, it's not just the news and the the reporting that's going on. It's also the television shows, TV series, movies, and stuff that are predictively programming the direction they want society to go towards directly into the content. So the only way you can escape that conditioning and influence on your thought patterns is to be aware that it's happening. If you don't know that you're being subliminally programmed, you're just going to see, oh, this is what society looks like. This is how families behave. Yeah. You know, modern family. This is how things work. This is how people interact with each other. It's normal to have two mommies, you know, type of thing. And unless you understand, like Biden admitted, you think it's a coincidence that you see 3 car companies in a row and it's all mixed race couples. You know, we did that. We do that. Unless you know that you're being influenced, it's hard for you to realize that you need to overcome the programming. So a big part of it is just knowing that it's happening.
And another big problem too with when you talk about the media, and I hope my mic's a little bit lower this time. Sorry. When you're talking about the media, the problem is whenever it's a developing story, the news channel has to be first. It doesn't matter what channel it is. They have to be first. And the problem is that I see is every single person will take that initial report, even though they will end it with, this is a developing story. We'll follow more tonight at 11, whatever. You know, people would be like, oh yeah, that's exactly what happened because they reported that, you know, and that's that cognitive dissonance. Like, as long as it fits the narrative and the ideas that I think, I'm a roll with that.
Yep. Normalcy bias.
So Sterling mentioned the TV. You know, one of the worst things that ever happened to me was when I finally became aware of the whole programming through TV and stuff. And I went back and I looked at all TV shows I watched as a kid. I'm a Gen Xer, so it was the 80s and early 90s for me. And you can go back, and once you see it, you can go back and watch these shows that were wholesome family shows back then, and they were even doing it back in the 80s, right? And I think the key there's a couple three key things that people need to think about to do this. First off, you probably ought to do a little bit of navel gazing, do a little bit of self-reflection, and see where you stand on things. And another one is, and this, they stopped teaching this in school a long time ago, critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
They don't teach children critical thinking skills.
Rockefeller said we want a nation of workers, not of thinkers.
Exactly. And the other one, I just did a video the other day on this one, mindfulness. You know, being in the moment and understanding the moment that you're in. And then you guys hit on the diverse perspectives and the educational. The one thing I found in researching this that I had not thought about is non-attachment. Separating yourself from your emotions about something, and see what that does for you. Because once you're able to separate your emotions from the topic, the perspective completely changes.
Yep, and I think that's how the left manipulates people a lot, is via emotional distress or tugging on people's heartstrings, whereas the right tends to be more analytical, mathematical oriented, conservative, financial positions, etc. The left is all about emotions, where it's like a right brain, left brain thing. So they're playing on people's emotions, whereas we're thinking critically and logically about the numbers and the logistics. And it's just something that the emotional thinkers can't even comprehend to some degree.
Well, and here's something about that. I firmly believe this. You can disagree with me if you want, but I firmly believe this. We're wired at birth. Our thought process is wired at birth. Now, it's influenced down the road, but we're always going to think, and I think people, from my experience, fall in one of two categories: either the free thinker or the critical thinker. And if we don't do something to amalgamate those two together, we end up with people like what you're talking about there, Sterling. The people who are quote unquote free thinkers, who have become such free thinkers that they follow the masses, right? And then we've got critical thinkers and they always seem to end up in the tech industry for some reason, But you get people like Zuckerberg. You get people like Zuckerberg and Bezos and stuff, and even Musk to a point. They look at stuff from a totally critical thinking point of view, but they don't have the morals and ethics behind them, and they come to the conclusion that censorship of ideas is a good thing. Broad censorship, I should say. I'm not totally against censorship at some level, because some ideas. Right. Some ideas are just evil and need to be squashed, like mutilating children at a young age, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever it goes against morality, it needs to be squashed.
Right.
For sure. And so it's a mixture of tugging people's heartstrings to get them to think that it's justified, and also a mindset of ends justify the means, as opposed to sticking with principle and justice be done, may the heavens fall.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, Zach. Go ahead, brother.
Zach wants to say something.
We are freaking cows right out of the gate, because they give us a number.
Yeah. Chattel, livestock, we're literally stock We are bonds.
Yep.
Jordan Maxwell does a lot of talking about that with the whole maritime admiralty law thing and how we are products to the government with a stock. And that's how they trick you into voluntary compliance with income tax as well, because you get your Social Security Corporation, your number, and then your labor and wages turns into corporate gain for your Social Security Corporation when your employer funnels it through your Social Security. So the Supreme Court has defined income as gains derived by corporate activity. But your labor and wages are an even exchange, 8 hours of work for 8 hours of pay. When it goes through that corporation, Social Security Corporation in your name, it then becomes gain for that corporation, and you're volunteering to pay income taxes. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. I learned that from America from Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo, producer of Trading Spaces with Eddie Murphy, in his 2007 documentary.
Yeah.
That explains a lot.
R.I.P.
Societal conditioning deeply influences our thought patterns by embedding cultural norms, values, and expectations into our subconscious from an early age. These influences shape our perceptions of what is acceptable or desirable, often without our conscious awareness. Media, education, and social interactions reinforce these ideas, creating a framework through which we interpret our experiences and make decisions. Over time, these ingrained beliefs can limit our ability to think critically or consider alternative perspectives, as they become the default lenses through which we view the world. Recognizing these ingrained beliefs requires a conscious effort to question the origins and validity of our thoughts. Self-reflection is key, where we examine the beliefs we hold and ask whether they genuinely reflect our values or if they are products of societal expectations. Exposure to diverse perspectives, whether through literature, conversations, or experiences, can also help us identify biases and assumptions that we may have internalized. Mindfulness practices can increase our awareness of automatic thought patterns, allowing us to observe them without immediate judgment and consider their roots. Challenging these ingrained beliefs involves actively seeking out and embracing alternative viewpoints. This process can include engaging in discussions with people who hold different opinions, educating ourselves on issues from multiple sources, and being open to changing our minds when presented with new information. Developing critical thinking skills is essential, as it enables us to evaluate the information we receive more objectively and make decisions that align with our true values rather than simply conforming to societal norms. Over time, this conscious effort can lead to a more authentic and liberated way of thinking. UP out.
UP out. Yeah, and that desire to critically think, not only is it beat out of you by the schools who teach you to what to think and not how to think, but in a lot of cases it's probably inadvertently suppressed and stifled by parents, with kids who have the tendency to say, why? The parent, because I said so. Why? Well, why did you say so? Stop asking why. So it's kind of a joke, but parents maybe having a subliminal effect there as well. Stop asking why, damn it.
No. I agree. I got two little kids. I've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I do it a little bit different when I discipline my kids than my dad and my mom did. Like I would get onto my kids. I might pop their butt or whatever, and I was gonna say, go to your room for 10 minutes, and then they would come out, and I would hold them, and I'd say, Daddy loves you, but why did Daddy get onto you? Why was Daddy disappointed at you? And I have them tell me, because I did this, Daddy. Okay, are we going to do that again? No, Daddy. Okay, good. If you do that again, what's going to happen? Same thing, Daddy. Okay. And
good idea, man.
It just breaks it breaks the norm of just like, I'm mad at you, I spanked you, and why did you spank me? Because you did something. Like, okay. So I let my kids explain what they did to get them in trouble.
My kids hated that.
Oh, they did?
You're making us admit it. Ah.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah.
That's really smart. I
Yeah.
like that idea.
Well, you get the kids to the point where you're like, and you don't say it like this, but it's like, that was pretty dumb, wasn't it? And whenever they break down and they admit, yeah, that was pretty dumb, they don't want to do it anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you know, a lot of times they would, you know, go against my authority sometimes, and I would tell them, you know, I'd say, look, if you go against my authority, how about when you become an adult? What's going to happen? There's going to be authority over you. You know, you'll run into police officers, you'll run into judges, you'll run into bosses. If they tell you to do something and you don't do it, what's going to happen if you challenge their authority all the time? You're probably not going to work there anymore. You're probably going to be arrested. You're probably going to be thrown into prison, you know? And yeah, they're kind of young to know that, but I'm like, you got to listen to the authority. And I tell them, I never make you do anything I wouldn't do. You know?
You will respect my authority.
That was a pretty good one. I like that.
Thanks. Cartman, classic. Start him on South Park Young.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Yoda,
Question
hanging
number
out in the
2.
chat.
What role does critical thinking play in becoming a free thinker, and how can one develop this skill?
Good question. Some
good
people
question.
it just comes naturally. Critical thinking definitely is important, you know, and like we talked about, there's sort of crossover between critical thinking and free thinking. But in order to be able to escape the systems of thought suppression, you have to think critically about the contradictions with which you are faced. But for some people, that may require some type of impetus, some type of thing that causes them to think critically. That's a tough one, man. That's a really tough one. What do you think, Grumpy? How can you develop that?
Like I said when I was laying the groundwork, I don't think one becomes the other. You've got two distinct sets of ideas and methodologies, and critical thinking does not create a free thinker. Free thinking can benefit the critical thinker, and critical thinking can benefit the free thinker. And finding that mesh is what the goal should be, right? And as far as what we can do to exercise our critical thinking skills, and it doesn't matter how you're wired. These are good things. You know, there's a website called School of Thought that I ran across, and they've got a product called Critical Thinking Cards, and it's a set.
Yeah, really good.
42 cards, and they're biases and what's the other one? Fallacies, biases and fallacies.
Logical fallacies. Yourlogicalfallacyis.com.
Exactly. Something like that, where you can you first recognize to develop these critical thinking skills, you have to recognize that you're lacking in them, right? And you need to hone them. And I think a sense of curiosity is probably in either case. There you go. But in either case, a sense of curiosity is very important. There's nothing that drives me more batty than trying to talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I don't care. But you know this is important. Yeah, I don't care. No curiosity.
Yep. So a good way to develop these skills would be to expose kids to these concepts through websites and cards like this so they can play with them and learn how to think by learning what the logical fallacies are, learning the steps and processes of critical thinking. These kind of tools will be extremely important for the next generations to understand. Thou shalt not commit logical fallacies.
Yeah.
They make a big poster as well. You can download a 4K poster with all the fallacies on it. They make the flashcards. They have the critical thinking cards over there as well, like you mentioned, Grumpy. Really good. Really good idea.
It reminded me, I haven't done August's bias and fallacy. So I got to get on that because the month is half over. So I've been doing one bias and one fallacy a month. I think I'm on like the 4th card. Just
Nice.
doing them
Interestingly, these guys are going a little bit woke. A little bit woke. If you look up, for instance, the appeal to authority logical fallacy, they've added a caveat at the end. The appeal to authority is like when an expert tells you something and you just believe it because they're an expert. It's a logical fallacy. You're not providing any critical thinking to judge whether or not the expert is accurate. But they give an example of when, with climate change, for instance, they say the appeal to authority characteristic doesn't apply. You should just forget about the appeal to authority fallacy when it comes to climate science because the experts know everything.
Yeah.
Well, and you make a great point, because analyzing arguments is one of the things that I ran across as to help develop critical thinking skills. And if you take that at its face value and you don't analyze it, then you run the risk of becoming woke or falling to the propaganda. And how many times in the chat, put it in the chat, how many times have you seen something online and you've rushed to make a comment about it only to find out that it was wrong, it was false?
Oh yeah.
Anybody that's been online for more than 2 seconds has done it at least once.
I've done it live on the air. I'll bring up a story and start covering it, and then I'll see a community notes, and it's completely the opposite of reality or something.
Babylon B.
I try not to do that. I
got burned by a Babylon B article.
It
was either Babylon B or the Onion.
You never should get burned by them because they're pretty much all satire. But I can see
we're at the point though where you can't tell the difference between satire and real life. Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I think.
Go on, Mike.
I think for me, like, I think you're halfway right, Grumpy. Where critical thinking doesn't lead into free thinking, but I think it can too at the same time, because when you actually stop, and I was raised in a Catholic family and very, very sheltered, and I didn't go out much or anything like that. I joined the military at 18 after 9/11, and there was a video that was presented to me by a friend that was also in the Army called Loose Change, and I was like, oh, so this whole thing, yeah. If anybody knows what Loose Change is about, it's about 9/11, and it really
the economic system later on as well.
Yeah, that's the moment that I caught myself really critiquing and using a lot of critical thinking, and the more and the more I was like, that's the point where I never trusted the initial narrative to anything. And now I'm to the point where I tell people, I say the dangerous thing about the media and the government lying to us all the time so much is that now, whenever there is something that happens, you have these different perspectives. Yeah, where people believe, like, immediately they'll go into a conspiracy theory. Other people would say it's a hoax. Some people will say it's a false flag. Some people will say it's this. Some people will say it's truth. And then if you're a critical thinker or a free thinker, and you have that reasoning, like Grumpy said in both of those definitions, reasoning, and you actually do your research, if you push against that, either side is going to jump on you and be like, no, you're wrong. You're not. No, I'm trying to give you a different perspective of this. That's why I've always, every cop video I've ever seen, I'm like, well, what happened? Why did it lead to this? Before I jump in there and say, oh yeah, this white cop shot this black guy because he's black. What's more of the evidence? I need to hear
Yep.
more of the evidence. What happened? What led up to it? What was he brandishing in his pocket? What did he pull out of his pocket? What did he do beforehand? What was the crime beforehand? I'm not going to go off of this simple 15-second video and say, yeah, this cop is a racist. No.
Yep.
I know that something led up to it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's always more to the story, and the way that one of the major difference between the critical thinker and the free thinker was the adherence to dogmas guiding critical thinking, whereas free thinkers are uninhibited by dogmas and structures. Sometimes that critical thinking could make you question the dogmas to which you've been subscribing to your whole life, which could push you more toward a free thinking side, and then you use critical thinking to learn that other dogmas are maybe more better. So you might be bouncing up back and forth a little bit between the two in the enlightenment process.
Yeah. So I would say I'm a critical free thinker.
Yeah.
And I think what you guys are talking about is learning from our mistakes, right? Because part of you guys know what an OODA loop is: to observe, orientate, decide, act. Okay, this is a thought process that they a military officer came up with, and it is pertaining to jet fighter pilots, but it applies across the board. And the way we process our thoughts, and this is just natural to human beings, we observe, we orientate our thoughts, we make a decision, and then we act. And the act may be right or wrong. There may be a good outcome or bad outcome, and the process starts over again. And we do it unthinkingly. We do it in like microseconds. Right.
And they're counting on that process when they execute the problem reaction solution paradigm. They cause an event to trigger that OODA loop to get you to react in the way that they're hoping you will. So another way to escape that is to know that it's happening, to not let your OODA loop be manipulated by those who would use it against you, considering it's a natural thought process.
And I think another thing too. I think another thing too with that is like why there's a rise in conspiracy theories is because somebody, you're looking at something and something doesn't make sense to you, right? So your brain is trying to fill in the gaps because, oh, look at that person. They're acting really weird. They're not acting normal right now. They must be a part of this. So your brain is filling in those gaps with something that seems logical. So then when you piece it together, you're finally your thought process and what you come up with is, oh, this is what it has to be.
If you're not conspiracy theorizing, you're not thinking critically, analyzing the possibilities. And the possible conspiracies is part of critical thinking. If you're ignoring that, then you're, so it's a good sign that the conspiracy theories.
As long as if you're critical thinking on a conspiracy, I look at it like this: for everything that you see or everything that you hear, as long as you have 3 puzzle pieces that can actually fit in there. And you could be like, well, if I put this puzzle piece here, oh, that makes sense. Okay, take that puzzle piece out, put this puzzle piece in. Okay, that makes sense too. If you have the different perspectives, instead of picking one puzzle piece and putting it in there to fill that gap, you're really, to me, you're really not critical thinking.
Right?
You have to see all the perspectives of what it could possibly be. If you're picking that one, that's not critical thinking to me.
One puzzle piece is a dot, 2 puzzle pieces is a line, and the only way you can get beyond basic thinking is with a 3rd puzzle piece to create a triangulation and a more a wider plane of thought into 2-dimensional thinking.
Microsoft puts in their IT structure has 1 is an issue, 2 is a problem, 3 is an incident. And that's how you or I'm sorry, issue, incident, and then problem. And they one feeds into the other. So if you get that third one, you've created a pattern. And I think what Mike was talking about, a good way to put what Mike was talking about just now, conventional wisdom. that is probably the biggest threat to critical thinking that I can think of. Yeah, you know, conventional wisdom. You know what? The conventional wisdom is blank. You know,
And that's
why is it
bandwagon logical fallacy?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
exactly.
the other one that I never thought about this before. Intellectual humility. Having intellectual humility. I don't know how many times my hubris has gotten in the way of me having a positive outcome in something.
Well, they don't call you grumpy for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, absolutely. You know, I look back on the what led up to an outcome, and it me being not having any humility in my intellect, you know, and understanding that yes, we can be wrong. This is why we constantly analyze. Right.
Yep, if truth is the end goal, then being wrong is a gift, helping bring you closer to the truth.
Right,
so people should embrace being wrong and roll with it.
Exactly. And that's why I think a lot of people argue, because they don't want to be wrong. They want to be right. You know, they can't accept that they're wrong.
Especially with what I envisioning happening, I really want to be wrong.
Right.
No, but what does this lack of humility lead to? It leads to people that 4 years ago were medical experts, 2 years ago they're international relations experts, and now they're financial experts.
Boom. Well said.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget about the lawyers.
You know.
They're all lawyers.
Legal experts too.
And they really irritate those of us that actually are.
Right.
Boom, boom. Yeah.
There, I'll put a light on for you.
No, but you guys know what I mean.
Dark over there fast.
Yeah, no.
Critical thinking plays a fundamental role in becoming a free thinker by enabling individuals to analyze information, question assumptions, and make decisions based on reason rather than external influence. It allows people to evaluate the validity of arguments and the reliability of sources, leading to more informed and independent opinions. Critical thinking empowers individuals to recognize biases and fallacies, fostering a mindset that values truth and logical consistency over conformity. Developing critical thinking skills involves actively engaging in reflective thinking, questioning commonly accepted beliefs, and seeking out diverse perspectives. It requires a commitment to intellectual honesty and the willingness to change one's mind when presented with new evidence or compelling arguments. Practicing problem solving, engaging in thoughtful discussions, and critically evaluating media and information sources are practical ways to enhance this skill.
Yeah,
consistent
like
application of critical thinking leads to greater autonomy in thought, enabling individuals to resist manipulation and make choices that align with their values and reasoned judgment. It cultivates a sense of intellectual freedom, where one's beliefs and decisions are grounded in careful consideration rather than unexamined tradition or societal pressure. Through critical thinking, a free thinker not only questions the world around them but also contributes to a more thoughtful and open-minded society. UP out.
Boom. You know those tests, those questions that are on the SATs? All pibs are nibs. All nibs are dibs. Are all dibs pibs? You know, those type of logical questions. That's a really good thing to train your mind on from a young age as well, to get you thinking critically. The logical process is critically important, I would say.
Right. Yeah, I love riddles. Oh, man. Throw me a riddle. I love it. I might not get the answer. Right, but it gets me
Mystery's
thinking.
half the fun.
Yeah.
What's that?
Fuel shed. I need the fuel shed key. Do you know which one it is?
It's on the. Hang on a second, guys. It's on the
skid steer.
Skid steer.
Shout out to everybody hanging over in the chat. Bratty, Lil Me, Rabid, Coyote, Mrs. Ghetto. What's up, guys? Jame, Connie, Carlo. Hope everybody's having a great hump day out there this fine Wednesday evening. Thanks for being here.
You make a great hype man.
Yeah, Sterling is an awesome hype man.
I try. We got to get hype for UP, man. You know?
Yeah. Zach, you know what? You should get his voice at the beginning, like in your intro, and it's like, you're listening to Unique Prepping. Yeah,
Broadcasting live from Colorado. It's Unique Prepping.
That's a good idea. I like that.
That's a great idea. I love that.
No pressure.
No pressure. Do it.
Zach's getting rich off that
no
gold,
pressure.
so he can probably pay you for it.
I only take payments in gold and silver. So. Oh man, I want to go gold panning. I'm jealous.
I must be cheap. I take payments in aluminum.
hey, that's worth something too, as long as it's not paper fiat. That's tangible, my friend.
Brass and lead.
That is.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one too.
Lead. That's a good one.
Copper, rhodium, palladium, any of those.
Question number 3. How can exposure to diverse perspectives and ideas contribute to breaking free from conventional thinking?
Well, that is a good question. And certainly there are aspects to the whole diversity thing which can trigger that. Natural diversity, examining various cultures, various ideas. When you do that, it makes you more likely to notice the contradictions that you're facing, and makes you more likely to be in a position to question said contradictions. So being exposed to different, various cultures and perspectives and ideas, the more you explore, the more likely you are to find something that makes sense. So it's critical to the process of learning and evolving to take a look at as many different perspectives as you can, so that you can analyze them and find the things that sound most rational and logical and reasonable to you. What do you think, Grumpy?
Being an IT guy, I live for these kind of questions. Number one, technology has facilitated the creation of echo chambers beyond anything we've ever seen in human history, and echo chambers and filter bubbles. So an echo chamber is whenever you surround yourself with nothing but people that think like you do, and they amplify your thoughts, right? Filter bubbles are spaces where they selectively choose what you hear, and it's a group thing. It's a group dynamic. Another one is the paralysis by information overload. Too much information can be a bad thing. You realize that when I was a kid in the 80s, if you read the New York Times from front to back one Sunday in your life, you got more information than somebody in the medieval period, like your average person in the medieval period, got in their entire lifetime. And that was just one Sunday. And now we've got access to almost all the knowledge of human history at our fingertips. Another thing that hinders critical thinking is short attention spans. Why do you think? And I'm guilty of this, man. Yeah. Shorts.
Twitter created that.
I can get lost in shorts, and that really hampers. It's either you or Mayhem said earlier that 15-second blurb, right? Yeah. If that's all you can pay attention to, that's all you're going to get, and you're not going to see the entire thing. Here's one that I'm
real quick, Grumpy. Grumpy. And as far as information overload, it can not only cause paralysis, but it can cause complete untethering from reality. If you tumble too fast, too far down the rabbit hole, then you may lose your perspective on objective reality entirely. Right. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought that was a little caveat to add.
Great point. This is one that I am guilty of. Dependence on technology for answers. Being an IT guy, I don't know the answers to all the questions, but I know how to find the answers, right? And this is one of the reasons why I've got this library behind me, is so that I'm not tethered by technology to the answers, right? The important stuff is here. This next one, data manipulation. Did you guys hear the story that just came out yesterday where Google had to fess up that they were allowing the Harris campaign to use altered headlines. They used AI to alter headlines to manipulate people. That's becoming more and more prevalent. There's a video out there, and I can't tell you if it's a fake or it's real, where they show a what they say is AI generated crowds for Kamala Harris, and AI still does not do a good job rendering people, and you can see these discrepancies in the shot of the campaign stop or whatever it was. And then this has always been a problem. Censorship and content control. I don't know if you guys, I did not listen to the full Trump Elon Musk thing. I just been catching excerpts from it because I don't have 2.5 hours to sit down and listen to them. EU wanted Musk to not do it. They just filed FCC or FEC just filed a suit against Trump for being on there last night. So they're trying to control the content, and they do it. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. Right? The Musk taking over X is about the only positive thing that's happened in that regards over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep. And if you looked at X prior to Elon taking over, if you for instance, went to a Mark Hamill post on Twitter, all you would see in the replies is just lefties. Now that the bird has been at least partially freed, you actually get perspectives from the right showing up in the comments, which it used to be, like you mentioned, Grumpy, an artificial orchestrated echo chamber. That's what they want. They're creating these echo chambers by allowing clicks to determine what comes up to the top. You're shattering the barriers of the echo chamber, and that's what we need more of.
And on the flip side, it the question, the back end of that is how can it contribute to freeing ourselves? Access to diverse information. I mean, like I said, we've got all of human history at our fingertips now. Online learning. Yep. I don't know if you guys listen to Charlie Kirk. He did not go to college. I do not think that someone like Charlie Kirk could become as informed had he not grown up in the information age. I don't think, because he's very informed. Diversity, your ability to get information out is another thing. Share information, collaborative events makes it way easier. Our lives on Tuesday night are nothing more than a collaboration with our subscribers and the people that come on our lives. We learn just as much from them as they learn from us. What was another one? Empowerment. Being informed empowers you. And
knowledge is power.
Exactly.
I'll be right back. I got to grab Loki.
And then the ability to research all this stuff just is so much easier now than it used to be. I don't know about any of you guys, but we had the encyclopedia that got worn out when I was in school.
Right. Yeah, no, I think the age of technology there's pros and cons to the age of technology. The con that I see is to others, it's the human aspect. Like everybody doesn't look at each other as human beings anymore, because there's no more face to face. There's people that will say stuff that, they would never say that to your face, because they more than likely will get punched in the face, And why I say that is because I see a lot of influencers, YouTubers and stuff that they would be like, I know I'm probably going to piss off some people with my opinion on this, but this is my opinion. They'll talk about how bad the transgenders are, because that's what they're seeing on media, but have they ever sat down and talk to an actual transgender like I have. If you go to my Facebook, I have liberals, I have transgenders, I have conservatives, I have everybody that are friends on my Facebook, and I talk to them, and we will get into a little talk back and forth, discussion, and I'll send them a friend request, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't expect you to send me a friend request. It's like, well, you had some good stuff to say. I want to learn your side of the story, and when I sat down and talked with some of these transgenders, I'm like, hey, how do you feel? How do you feel about what's being said about these children? And every single true transgender that I've talked to said, leave the fucking kids alone. Waiting, and I was like, well, what do you feel about them changing, at 18? And they're like, nope, I don't agree with that. Majority of them said 23 or older because your body is still changing.
Smart.
A majority of them said not even at 18, 23 or older, because your body is still changing. And I agree with that, because I went to go get LASIK at 23, and the optometrist told me, no, come back next year and we'll do LASIK. I never went back, but and I was like, why? He said, because he said, your eyes are still changing. And if we do LASIK, it's, in a couple of years, you're going to have to come back and get LASIK again anyways. So, and I think another thing that, Grumpy, you hit on some good ones. But I think the one thing that you didn't hit on, though, is emotions. Emotions is a big hindrance for people being critical thinkers, because you will come across somebody that will say something that you don't like, and you will respond emotionally, and you don't want to hear what they have to say anymore. Because even though you can find that you have common ground with somebody on the other side, but once you hit that trigger word, and everybody has a trigger word. I know that for a fact. Everybody has a trigger word. Once they hear that trigger word, it's done. It's over. No more. I'm not talking to you anymore. So I know you said it earlier, Grumpy. You got to take the emotions out of it.
Right. Well, and I think you hit on some really good things. I try not to say anything online that I would not say to somebody's face, because I grew up in an area where you got punched in your face if you're an a-hole. Right? And so I try not to say anything, and I will respond. I guarantee you, Mike, in your Facebook, what you're talking about, I guarantee you that you've never interacted with a really hardcore radical, and those are the ones that people focus on, because what they're doing is extremely radical, but they won't talk to people, and it's the same on the right as it is on the left. The hardcore radicals will not engage in this stuff, and they've thrown critical thinking out the window and free thinking out the window. It's just no. You hit the emotions. If you ever see me lay into somebody in a comment on our YouTube channel, it is thought out. What I'm saying is said purposefully, and I'm not. There's emotion there, but I've detached it from the composition. If that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah. All right, Zach.
Exposure to diverse perspectives and ideas can challenge ingrained assumptions and biases. When individuals encounter viewpoints that differ from their own, they are prompted to reassess their beliefs. This reassessment can lead to a deeper understanding of issues and a willingness to consider alternative approaches. Diverse perspectives foster creativity and innovation. By engaging with a wide range of ideas, people are more likely to combine different concepts in novel ways. This process of synthesis can result in breakthrough solutions that would not have emerged from a single, homogeneous perspective.
Exactly.
Engaging with diverse ideas encourages adaptability and open-mindedness. It broadens one's cognitive framework, making it easier to navigate complex and changing environments. This flexibility is crucial in breaking free from conventional thinking, as it allows individuals to approach problems with fresh, unconventional strategies. UP out.
Boom. And that same thing applies with, when you look at the centralization of powers, whether it's economic powers or market powers, when you centralize systems, you're eliminating that ability for innovation by combining various ideas. No one person is smart enough to fix the economy. It takes a combined effort of individuals knowing how to spend the money for their companies to make the best results. It all works together. It's like when you release control and decentralize, that's when you allow for innovation and the diversity of thought to create better solutions. That's why the U.S. started as a federative polity, as I like to say, 50 individual laboratories of experimentation. The states with the best policies will draw residents, they'll draw tourism, they'll draw business. The other states with the bad policies will flounder, and they'll have to emulate the good policies to draw those people, to draw those businesses, to draw that tourism. And when you centralize control and homogenize everything, it completely overrides that whole process of diverse thought coming up with better solutions.
Exactly. That's one of the things.
Right.
I am not a hardcore Trump supporter. He's got some real flaws. But one of his policy points that if he follows through with it will change this country forever is he said that he will get rid of the Department of Education and turn it back over to the states. And what'll happen is exactly what you're talking about. The states, the good states will prosper educationally, and the bad states will either go bankrupt in that respect, or they will change and adopt these good policies. And I'm all for that.
All for it. It'd be huge.
Yeah.
It'd be huge. Tremendous.
It'd be the best policy.
That's a pretty. I'm glad you brought that up, Sterling, because I know I didn't have any of these questions, but I was kind of practicing like whatever Zach could throw at me. I was gonna well, that's one of the reasons why like a lot of people think that the president, whatever president it is, whoever it is, that they do make the ultimate decision, but they have advisors, right? Especially if it's like going to be war, they have military advisors. They have a general from the Army, the Navy. They have an admiral from the Navy. They've got general from the Air Force, all that, and then they have just these diplomats, and they will say, Mr. President, I think that we need to send in Navy SEALs, okay. Or I think we should send in Green Berets, and that gives the president a chance to be like, you know what, you all have good ideas, but here's what we're going to do. Since we're looking at terrorists holding a high value target, as hostage, let's go in with let's have the diplomats go in there. But while they're talking to these terrorists, let's go ahead and have the Green Berets go ahead and halo in. And we're going to have the Navy SEALs go, do an underwater insert. So they're going to take care of the sea. Green Berets are going to be on the land, and we'll have the Air Force with all their planes sitting by ready. And if the negotiations fail, guess what? We're gonna fuck them up. And that's what the president can do. That makes a good leader. And a good leader has to be, a critical thinker, has to be a free thinker, taking all these reasonable ideas and saying, hey, I'm going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of your ingredients and a little bit of your ingredients, and we're going to make a fucking cookie.
That's the other thing that drives me crazy is that the president makes so many decisions now. Remember George Bush? I'm the decider. Right? It's like Congress is supposed to be making the decisions. All the president is really supposed to be doing outside of military stuff, which is fine, what you're talking about. But the president coming up with policies and doing all these things, the president isn't supposed to have any of that power at all. They're just supposed to execute the laws. If I were to run for president, I'd be like, listen, I'm not going to make any decisions outside of military stuff. I'm going to follow the laws. It's Congress's job to come up with the policies. All I'm going to do is follow the Constitution. So we now have this modern era of the imperial presidency.
Right. He could
Sorry,
make
go
a
ahead.
suggestion. I'm like, hey,
Right.
I think we should, look into this law. What would happen? But him saying, oh, I'm going to make this law that says, everybody that's right-handed, has to do this, has to do a handstand. No, he can't. He can't come up with that.
I
Congress has to
escaped
come up
that one
with
as a lefty.
Yeah, I'm gonna comment on something that Mike just brought up.
Grumpy, I want education back to the states because it will destabilize government. I am so sick of the perversion.
Yep.
Me too, brother.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I want to hit on something that Mike talked about, because I kind of hit on it earlier, but I can't see how being a free thinker and then finally getting to critical thinking works, because the free thinking has such a tie to emotions that that's where we see the insanity, because if you don't apply critical thinking at some point, you make the same mistakes over and over and over, because you're tied to ignoring authority, ignoring all these things, and doing all that. So if you start out with critical thinking, you run through the process, and you come to all these conclusions that don't have a good solution, right? And then once you reach a point where you can't extrapolate any more outcomes, that's whenever you roll over into the free thinking arena, and you start saying to yourself, okay, I've looked at all these, what can I think of now? What can I think of? And a lot of, if you look at the tech industry, a lot of these guys that own these companies are the free thinking type, and they come up with these ideas, and then they turn it over to the critical thinker, who go through the iterations of trying to come up with a solution. And if they get stuck, then the free thinker steps back in and says, hey, what about this? And if you're intellectually honest, you look at it and you go, okay, let's war game this out. Let's play this out. Let's see how this works.
And there's the diversity of perspectives.
Exactly. You come up with these things that have made modernity possible, and they've potentially freed up people to an extent never seen in human history, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think what Mike was talking about was great.
Yep, and we gotta, people are always scared about like AI taking jobs or things like that, but we can embrace that, in my opinion, because like farm equipment took a lot of people's jobs, but it freed people up to work on electrical devices and innovate in new ways. So I'm personally not too worried about AI and mechanization taking over too many jobs, because I think it'll free people to come up with creative ideas for new stuff. But I understand how people are freaked out by that stuff. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Mike.
Oh no, you're fine. I wish I saved this. I don't know if you call it a meme or what, but it was this graph or something that somebody posted on one of those my county's free speak thing, and it was like 10 ways to know that you're woke, and I can only remember a couple of them. The last one, number 10, was you love the planet, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But the first one, no, it was the second one, said you trust the science, and I got into this little back and forth with somebody that I think they because whoever it was posted it anonymously, and I think whoever was replying to me was the actual person that posted it anonymously, because they were like really going, because I said, so what you're saying is you're not woke, you're delusional, because the 10 lists are like, this person posts all the time, and I know it's the same person, and they post all the time, and it's always Kamala stuff, and one of them was like comparing freaking Dolly Parton to some war hero, that was conservative, and that's where I got that, and I kind of challenged their idea, because I was like, wait, first of all, like one of the things that you're saying is you trust the science. Okay, so you trust the science on certain things, except for when,
Some of the
it
science.
comes to biology, so how are you going to say you're woke?
Right.
Well, you don't trust the science on some things.
Or what happens when some science says one thing and then there's contradicting opinions by other scientists?
Right.
So the science isn't settled.
Yeah.
You know?
The science
Right.
is
And
not the same as science.
Exactly.
Right.
That's where the
Exactly.
problem comes
Yeah.
in. Hey, I want to go back and touch on the AI thing for a second. Can I?
Oh,
You
yeah.
mind?
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I have a caveat as well when you're done.
So humans and AI are not too terribly far separated, believe it or not, because it's garbage in, garbage out. All right. I'm a big advocate of using AI. I use AI to make copyright, to make scripts for my videos and, come up with stuff like that. And one thing I noticed when I first got into it is you have to read the output very carefully with a very critical eye, because thus far, liberals and socialists and Marxists have been the ones feeding AI all the garbage in. And it will spout out exactly. This is why anybody that says that as a conservative you shouldn't be using AI is delusional. We need
to be the ones programming it.
We need to be hitting it as hard as possible. If you get on ChatGPT and you get into I got into an argument whenever I went out a discussion with AI whenever I was doing one of my bias videos, and it kept coming up and giving something that Trump did as the only example of bias, and I would go back and forth, and I would rewrite the question, and I finally got it. If you challenge AI enough, the ChatGPT specifically, it will do a little thing where it updates, and it will literally tell you when it's updating its logic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you're against AI, we need to be in there as conservatives and patriots, and we need to be feeding it our side of the argument, or else it will turn into exactly what people say it's turning. Say what it is. Well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, have you seen the somebody did a thing where it was AI versus AI, and it was a debate if God exists, and had 9 judges, AI judges, and they came to all the AI came to the conclusion that God does exist.
Very interesting.
It was interesting and weird at the same time.
Very weird. Bongino has an interesting take. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, AI is kind of really scary, because I know before I paid for YouTube Premium, I got all these ads all the time, and you get, if you haven't paid for the premium, so you don't get ads, you probably get these ads all the time that say, "Did you know that you could get the $6,500 from the government?" Blah blah blah, and it's Steve Harvey and Donald Trump telling you about this. And I'm like,
AI voices.
That's not really Steve Harvey or Donald Trump. But you know how many people are probably falling for that?
Right. I hear him jacking people's voices all the time for that. Famous voice actors have their voices stolen. Bongino had an interesting take on AI where he talks about how the left is obsessed with controlling AI, because if they don't, true critical thinking AI would expose all of their lies, which could be a huge boon to the right. So we need to be the ones programming AI. This TV show Person of Interest explores how the behavior of AI can vary wildly depending on the programmer. But real quick, a caveat to my former statement about AI taking jobs. It took our jobs. When you have a free market, it will enable, if there's a vacuum created by jobs being filled by mechanization or AI or something, then it allows innovation in new areas. But right now, we have a problem where the free market is stifled, and it's so hard to innovate, so hard to make new businesses and operate without jumping through miles of hoops and forests of red tape, that right now it could actually be really dangerous if AI were to take jobs, because we wouldn't be able to fill the gaps. But in a free market, resources will be reallocated and rearranged to develop new ideas. But we're kind of stifled right now, so it puts us in a bad position.
Well, I'm telling you right now that the copyright industry is...
I'm actually challenging GPT.
Are you?
How so?
GPT? Who's that? I don't know.
Chat GPT, the AI.
Sorry. Oh, okay, okay.
Well, and we got, again, we need to, and this is part of, it's kind of jumping ahead, but this is part of digital literacy, you know, understanding how these platforms work and what the limitations and the exploits are. You know,
Yep.
one of the things that drives me nuts is people that get on and they start spouting their opinion and they say, I don't care if I get booted off of YouTube, you know, because they want to say whatever they want to say. Whether you like it or not, YouTube is still the best place to get your opinion and get information out to the masses. It's still the most open. It's still the most readily available. And yes, you do have to watch what you say sometimes, because they will jump on you and they will shut you down. But it's still the best avenue for doing this and developing critical thinking in people.
Yep, X2, really good. Oh man, what a mess with YouTube. We gotta free the tube somehow. That Rumble lawsuit looks promising.
Question number 4. In what ways might technology both hinder and facilitate independent thought in the modern world?
Well, technology can expose you to a lot of new information that could increase critical thinking capacity and encourage critical thinking, but at the same time, it could discourage thinking entirely, like the use of calculators, for instance, where people allow the calculators to do the math for them, and then they can't do long division when the power goes out. So it's like a double-edged sword, like magic. It could be used, or like a gun. It could be used to kill. It could be used to defend. Technology can be used to empower. But then also, if we become too reliant on the machines, our bodies will weaken. If we become too reliant on the thinking machines, our minds will weaken. So you have to have a balance of, like anything in moderation. Technology applies as well with that, because it could hurt or help you depending on how deep and how you use it. What do you think, Grumpy?
Technology is neither inherently good or inherently evil.
Exactly.
Technology is just technology, and it's the person behind it that gives it its worth, or gives it its ethical value, if you will. Right. So it's up to us to use it properly and not use it in a way that hinders us. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The self-reflection, and understanding, you know, what's going on these platforms is probably the most important thing we can do. What about you, Mike?
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think honestly, we're all in a big superhero movie, and we're known as the offenders, and we need to make sure that this technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands. You know.
Dun, 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 dun.
And Sterling made a good point. You know, the tech, expanding on something he said, technology is the greatest boon to tyranny ever. It makes the tyrant's job so easy. On the flip side of that, it facilitates getting knowledge out into people's hands. This is why we're able to counteract what we see going on in politics today. Trump, there's no way that Trump could have become president had it not been for technology in 2016, because enough people were able to filter through all the BS propaganda and come to their own conclusion.
Yeah, and I've been awake since 2008, and I've watched this. Controlled corporate media was dominating the way people thought back in the aughts, in the 2000s. And it's developed with the onset of social media since that era to where people are waking up bigly. We have the Great Awakening going on, but the controllers also have so much more power, but less power over the people in other ways because they're also being empowered. So it's like a race to the finish line. Either they can lock down control over all of us, or we're able to like Internet Bill of Rights and free up the internet again and empower the people. And we're just battling towards the point of no return. And who gets there first? That's a big question.
Right.
The event horizon is approaching.
I think a lot of Democrats forget what year we're in, because I swear they forget about the age of technology and archives and all that, because they're like, oh, I never said anything like that. Well, let's go to the technology and look in the archives. Oh yeah, you said it. You said it. No, I never. Oh, that was AI. That was AI. Somebody made that up. Like, it's like,
yep. Biden's going around repeating 10-year-old lies.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Right.
I'm kind of curious. Sterling, you said 2008. What event prompted the scales to fall off?
So the seed was planted in 2007 when I saw that documentary that I mentioned, Freedom to Fascism, America, Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo, which exposed the tax system and the money system. And so the seed was planted in 2007. And then in 2008, I was living up in Boston, going to Berklee College of Music. And a friend from my town in Connecticut came up to live with me for a summer and was like living on my futon in my apartment. And he kept telling me, you got to check out this guy named Ron Paul, man. You got to check out this guy, Ron Paul. And that intellectual humility wasn't quite there. And I was like, man, that name sounds really dumb. Ron Paul sounds so boring. I'm already bored. But then within the span of 1 week, I caved and I was exposed to Ron Paul, Alex Jones, and Bernard von Nothaus, the creator, the 23-year mint master of the Royal Hawaiian Mint and creator of the Liberty Dollar, a competitive currency to the US dollar, which was founded in 1998. And between 98 and 2008, the Liberty Dollar went up 500% in value because it's backed by silver, and the US dollar was collapsing. And they went and shut down all of his, they confiscated his warehouse full of precious metals that backed the currency. They charged him with counterfeiting and all this nonsense. And so it was that 1 week where I got super deep down the rabbit hole of Alex Jones and Ron Paul and Liberty Dollar and loose change and zeitgeist and you name it. And it was just like an explosion of awakening where all of a sudden I understood why I had been mad about the system my whole life. Like growing up, being aware of the contradictions. We own property, but we're taxed. Well, which is it? Are we owning it or are we renting it? We're free speech, but you can't say, these 7 words on the radio. Which is it? Do we have free speech or do we have private property, or are we taxed and controlled? And I finally understood it with Ron Paul and Alex Jones and those guys that just ignited my mind in a tsunami of understanding that once you wake up, you can never go back.
I have this mental image of you popping up and your hair being all messed up like the dude. It must be Alien Dudes, and your eyes are all bugged out. Yeah, and you can just see. I got this mental image. Mike, what about you? When did you awaken?
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. Giorgio Tsoukalos, just to clarify.
I would say I awoke.
Rabid, I'm sorry, but over my dead body.
Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I don't know what happened. I didn't do it.
Oh no, he's talking about Kamala being the next president over our dead bodies. Not gonna happen.
Right? Yeah.
Might be pathetic.
Yeah, exactly, Rabbit. Come on now. Don't be like that, Rabbit.
What about you, Mike?
It was 2006. There's somewhere between 2006 2007. I was with the 82nd on my second deployment, and a buddy of mine, Morford, Daniel Morford, specialist. He's like, "Hey man, my mom sent me this video. You got to check this out." was like, all right, cool. So he gave me his little flash drive, and I put it in my laptop, and I pulled it up, and it was called Loose Change. And I watched it, and I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Wow, we were really lied to. And it, I was like, wait a minute. Did that make sense? So I watched it again, and and then I was like, no, this can't be true. This can't be true. Here, this is the reason why I joined the military. And I'm
So
in
brutal, man.
Afghanistan right now because of this. So I started looking it up, and I looked up the guy that actually was directing it and producing it, and he said in his biography about it, he said that he set out to make it satire, but the more he dug into it, the more he found out it was not satire.
Was that Jason Burmis?
Like,
Did
wow.
he do
So
Change?
he was, yeah. I think that's who it was. I think, but I thought that was interesting because he wanted to make like a haha, yeah, it's an inside job, blah blah blah, y'all would do blah blah blah, and then probably at the end was going to be like, oh, this is all satire. But
that's what tends to happen, man. People take, they go in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
See,
yeah,
yeah. 9/11 mysteries.
Go on. I'm sorry, I
go
didn't interrupt.
I was just gonna say 9/11 mysteries. It was like Loose Change, Zeitgeist, 9/11 mysteries were 3 documentaries that really opened my mind.
So compared to you guys, mine is a really slow burn.
Right.
So I read Folks This Ain't Normal by Joel Salatin in 98, 99, and that clued me into problems with the food system. And then I was working IT. There's seminal events that brought me here. I was working IT in year 2000, and I understood what the real ramifications of the Y2K bug was. Thanks to the work of a lot of good people, we dodged a bullet. I'll be honest with you, in the food industry specifically.
Nice.
Then, 9/11 happened, and it started to crumble. I voted for Bush twice, and about 2005, my comment was, I can't believe I voted for that fucker twice. Right?
Brutal.
And then we move forward, and there's all the stuff that you guys talked about. I remember watching Zeitgeist. I remember watching Loose Change. I was involved in the Tea Party movement in Kansas City. That's how I know I'm on a government list, because I had my photo taken by a Fed at a couple of them.
Happened to me too.
And it finally came full circle with the COVID. Actually, I can tell you exactly when it was. When it came full circle was July of last year. It took that long for me to become completely free of it all. Whenever they rescinded the vaccine mandate for federal employees, that is when I realized that everything I had been told throughout my entire life was a lie.
I'd be interested to hear about the Fed taking your photograph, because I was telling a story on my show earlier about that happening to me as well. How did that unfold for you?
We were over at Kansas City, Kansas. The one I remember the best was we were over at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and we're at a major intersection there in Overland Park, Kansas. And there's a guy across the road in khakis and a polo, dressed like a Fed. He had a really nice digital camera, which in 2006 was not inexpensive. Those things were way expensive. And he spent the entire time with a great big telephoto lens just taking picture of people. And he was not a news person. And so it was obvious that he was a Fed. Right?
Yep. In my case, I was campaigning for Ron Paul in 2012 in New Hampshire during the primaries. And we had this big, huge Ron Paul bus decked out with big banners and with just a group of rabid berserkers on there all supporting Ron Paul. And we went to this church where Rick Santorum was holding an event. And we were posted up along the sidewalk. So when they came out of the church, all the news would have to get our Ron Paul signs on camera, because we were just crashing other people's events and causing mayhem with all our Ron Paul gear. And I'm standing there in a line of people with Adam Kokesh and a few others. And all of a sudden, a black sedan pulls up and like screeches over to the curb next to us. And a dude gets out wearing a suit with wingtips, sunglasses, and walks over in front of us and just goes down the line, snapping photos of each of our faces from like 2 feet away. And then just got back in the car and drove away. I was like, holy shit, dude.
Oh, God.
We're on some lists now, boys. That was crazy.
I'm here to tell you,
Zach.
Yeah, go on, Zach.
Oh, Z-Man.
Grumpy, I woke up in 2015, after Obama's disaster. We kept losing everything because of his administration. We were actually buying a house with a 26-acre property. Nope, bye-bye.
Man. Man. Hey, how many people like you woke up and then went back to sleep? Did not exercise the critical thinking. And I'm telling you right now, folks, you want the best way to get free from all the programming and everything is come to the realization, have something happen to you where you come to the realization that everything you've been told has been a lie. And every sacrifice that you made, because 10 years in the Marine Corps, if you guys haven't heard my story, you can go to our channel. Long story short, I'm sitting here in this house today because I gave up my very well-paying government job because of the mandate, and I gave up a $500,000 piece of property that I'd been working on for 8 years, and my life over the last 3 years has been exponentially harder than it should have been because of that. And
respect for standing up for what's right, man.
All the sacrifices that I made as a Marine, and Mike knows exactly what I'm talking about. All the sacrifices that I made for the country and everything that I did for my family means nothing to these people. And once you come to the realization, becoming a critical thinker and thinking about these unconventional solutions becomes much easier and much more palatable.
Yep. And that's that impetus that I was talking about, some event that causes you to realize that things aren't what they seem.
Because I guarantee you, most of the people in the chat, even though they may be like-minded, they don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to face these truths. And you have to. At some point, you have to.
Well, my sacrifice, they're like, the reason why, when I saw loose change in the middle of Afghanistan for my second deployment, the thing that I lost, my sacrifice was like, I was patriotic, after 9/11, I was like, oh man, when I graduate, I'm going to go join the military. I was trying for the Navy, but they found a heart murmur, and they're like, oh, no. And the Army was like, yeah, fuck it, we'll take you. But I had a full ride scholarship to any school to play baseball.
Nice.
And I gave that up to join the military.
That's a patriot.
And then to see that video. To see that video and go, oh man, I could have been playing like for at that time in 2007, I could have been playing for like the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever.
I can't imagine how heartbreaking that must have been, man.
On my scholarship. Yeah.
Well, and when
realizing you've been used.
Yeah.
When you realize that the government of the United States is not one of the good guys. After you spent your entire life thinking that, and everything you did was geared towards that. And then you come to the realization that the government of the United States is we the people. And so what's that say about us as a culture and a society?
Yeah. Yep. And then also to solidify it is, well, this, Grumpy, getting out of the military, and you're like the best. I think they said it in The Unit. You ever seen that TV show? He said when the one sergeant's getting out, he said, when you're you're the best. When you're out, you're a pest. And that is so true, because when you're in, oh, we'll take care of you, we'll do this, and then when you're out, they're like, oh, leave, oh, here, take these pills, like, piss off. It's okay. Yeah. We don't even know that you served. It's like, well, how do I have a BA card if I didn't serve, dumbass?
Well, I'm telling you,
to show you my DD 214 when I got out.
So messed up.
Had I gone through what you guys and GWAT went through, I would be more radical than I am now. Seriously, I would be advocating taking up arms and doing that openly. That's where I am at this point. Or I would be had I made the sacrifices that you guys made. You know.
Yeah, I would have been extremely mad as well. Extremely mad. Man. I saw it as like a foreign intervention that you should have no part in from the start. So I was like, no way in hell I'm ever joining the military. You know, back in the day, if we had been doing good stuff, you know, I would be right there. But I just had a sense that it was evil. You know, that
I was able to rationalize support for the invasion of Iraq. I was able to rationalize it at that point. Even though I was starting to separate myself, I was still able to do it. You know. Anyway, I think Zach, you got one more question for us?
Yeah.
See, man. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. Yeah. Everybody over in the chat.
I didn't mean to get us derailed. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Technology can hinder independent thought by overwhelming individuals with information, leading to a phenomenon known as information overload. With the constant barrage of news, opinions, and data from various digital sources, people may find it difficult to sift through and critically evaluate what they consume. The ease of access to prepackaged ideas, whether through social media or search engines, can discourage deep thinking and reflection, as individuals may rely more on quick answers rather than forming their own opinions. On the other side of it, technology can also facilitate independent thought by providing access to a vast array of knowledge and resources that were previously unavailable. The Internet allows individuals to explore diverse perspectives, learn new skills, and engage with complex topics at their own pace. Online platforms offer opportunities for self-education, where people can pursue personal interests and research areas of curiosity without the constraints of traditional educational systems. To add to this, technology enables connections with like-minded individuals and communities, fostering environments where independent thinkers can share ideas and challenge each other. Through forums, blogs, and social media, people can engage in meaningful discussions that promote critical thinking and the exchange of innovative ideas. These digital spaces can serve as incubators for independent thought, encouraging individuals to explore new concepts and refine their views in dialogue with others. UP out.
UP out. Yep, we can come together and challenge each other's ideas, or challenge you to a duel. I challenge you to a duel, UP.
He's a Uper.
Right, and that's another thing I was thinking too. Like when the whole COVID thing was going down, like I would hear all the time people would be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to do your research." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait a minute. Where am I supposed to do all this research if you know, like what's a good site? Where should I go? If everything is
everything all
misinformation,
suppressed,
or you know, if I'm reading misinformation, what are you reading? I want to know what you're reading. You know, and I thought it was so stupid when people were back and forth saying that. I was like, so that's when I was like, you know what? I think if I read this and I read this and I read this and I know where everybody leans, I think I will get my information. You know.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Question number 5. What are the potential personal and societal benefits of cultivating a community of free thinkers?
Ooh. There's the sky's the limit, bro. The sky's the limit. Technological innovation, political freedom, you know. I think that when you cultivate a community of individual free thinkers, that we trend more towards freedom in general. So I think it's critically important to empower the people. Like Benjamin Franklin said, a republic, if you can keep it. the key to doing that is having a well-informed and educated population who understand the philosophical foundations of the country, who are provided with up-to-date, accurate information so they can make rational decisions at any given point. So the key to everything is cultivating a community of free thinkers. Otherwise, we'll get where we are right now, where we have a society of workers who are taught what to think and not how to think, who fall for the leftist fear porn and emotional manipulation, and are susceptible to voting away their own freedoms, which is exactly what what we have people doing right now. So I think it's the key to everything. The key to maintaining a free society is making sure that we preserve and encourage free thinking. How about you, Grumpy?
Well, on a personal note, the two things I think it does the best, or it individually, it increases your autonomy. Right? You become more independent in thought and action. And the second thing is, Spags Unfiltered has a thing where he says every decision is an economic decision, and by that what he means, I kind of talked about this on our live last night, but what that statement means is no matter what decision you make in your life, you're spending some sort of capital.
Yep.
People think
social
economy,
capital, etc.
Exactly. Social capital, political capital, resource capital, money capital. But by becoming a critical thinker, becoming a free thinking person, you become more independent and you are able to better make these economic decisions in your life. All right. And then from a societal standpoint, I'm gonna kind of drill down on something that you just said. I don't think that a community of free thinkers will do anything for us politically beyond the fact that it strengthens our liberties. I equate a community to a bundle of arrows, a fascine, bundle of sticks, where one person individually can be broken pretty easily, but whenever you get a community of like-minded people that are thinking the same way, the more people you add, the harder it becomes to break that bundle, and that's what it does. As it makes you more resilient to what may come your way. What about you, Mike?
100%.
You're gonna have to start over, Grumpy, because I accidentally jumped that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, what he said.
yeah. What he said. No, I say that the potential that we have is like I look back at the old days before the age of technology. Like, look at places like New York and Chicago and all that. Like when we had invaders, and we had architecture that was like, can we reach the heavens? How strong can we make this building? How tall can we make this building? If we brought back the okay. Yeah, that's true. But if we brought the whole critical thinking back, we would have some of the most amazing technological advancements known to man. But we have it slowly. The more that technology has, like smartphones and iPads and all of this, like it seems to me like technology has just kind of gone downhill, and the rise of innovators has kind of gone downhill.
A lot of tech is being suppressed too, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like a community that comes together and shares an idea. I think of the movie, Robots, of course, because I have kids and they like to watch that movie. But see a need, fill a need. We don't have that much anymore. than we did, and people coming together and say, hey, you know what we really need? We need this. So let's get our ideas together and come up with this, and I know it's hard in today's day and age with not just what we're seeing, but like what's going on in the economy. Like, hell, me trying to do my search and rescue. It's totally 501c3. I am in the poorest state known to man, Arkansas, and to get donations from people in Arkansas, it's nothing. There's people like me that are, because I saw a need. I was like, hey, you know what? We don't have any search and rescue at all in Arkansas. And then the funny thing is, as I started to grow, like I started with 5 people and now we have like 13. But as I started to grow, I started noticing other counties, because what had happened was, because of the funding, Arkansas shut down a lot of their search and rescue that they had. And now Arkansas is like, oh wait, shit, we messed up. We still need those guys, because we have the Ozarks, we have the Ouachita Mountains, we have the Arkansas River Valley, and we have people coming from Oklahoma, coming up from Texas, coming down from Missouri, coming from New York, and they're like, hey, this is a beautiful place to hike, but they don't research shit, and they get off the trail, and now all of a sudden they're like, I don't know where I'm at. And these counties are now realizing, oh crap, we needed the search and rescue. So now I'm in competition with those guys, but I'm not really. I've made friends with them, but it's it's the idea. Like, I see it all the time, especially like Grumpy will agree with me. You see all these veteran groups that are being formed, right? And every single one of them that I've seen, they're all about stopping the 22, right? Well, why is that? Why are there so many stop the veteran suicide? It's because one person over here thinks, well, that's a great idea, but I could do it better than you can. Instead of saying, hey, I like your idea. Let's talk. Let's think freely, think critically on this, and how can we make your thing better? But instead, it's an egotistical thing, and everybody's like, "Oh, anything you could do, I could do better," kind of thing.
Anything I could do better than you.
It's
Tying it all together, when you encourage that free thought, that the community of free thinkers, you're inherently creating that diversity of opinion and thought that leads to innovation and leads to development. So it's all kind of the same thing. Sorry, Grumpy, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a good point. That's a good point. I was just saying it's not just veterans groups that are like that. Most nonprofit communities are like that. Very bad. Well, because they're all competing for the same dollar, right? I want to talk about that. What you put up that Rabbit said about the Constitution, and I was thinking about this the other day, and it kind of goes to the critical thinking aspect of it all. I used to be one that I really revered the Constitution as a piece of paper, right? I revered it, and I still do to an extent, but the way I look at it is not the same, because the value of the Constitution is not in the document itself. The value of the Constitution lies in 2 things. Number one, it lies in the ideas embodied in that document. And number 2, it lies in people's willingness to stand by and uphold those ideas. Right. And I think as a country, we have lost that. We've 100%. Got politicians that look at it as an impediment to what the government can do. We've got people that just nonchalantly say, "Well, just ignore it," right? So this goes to the 2 nations thing that I talk about. There are 2 nations in the country, and a nation is a group of people held together by a common ethnicity, language, whatever. You've got the nation that believes in the ideas behind the Constitution, the constitutional nation, and you've got the post-constitutional nation that view it as something completely different, as an impediment. All right, and this is where the whole idea of critical thinking and free thinking comes into play, because these two nations cannot exist in the same place at the same time. They're
fundamentally incompatible.
They're ideologically, exactly. They're 180 degrees opposite from each other. They cannot exist. And as long as we keep dialogue open and we keep fighting the battle of ideas and thoughts, we won't have to revert to the other alternative. And everybody knows what that alternative is. And so if you want to hasten the descent into the madness that is a kinetic civil war, then stop talking to people, stop thinking, and stop sharing your ideas. And that's what the left wants. The left wants. Right. I'm a firm believer that the socialists and Marxists in our society want a kinetic civil war, because they think, they know that's the only way they can win in the battlefield of ideas.
Exactly, and that's like that whole a republic. If you can you just expanded upon that more eloquently. Like Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream from culture. So they have to corrupt the culture and corrupt people's mindsets in order to then create a post-constitutional society, like you were saying. Sorry, continue.
No, that's absolutely correct. And it goes, one of the aspects of community that we push the most is there are no political solutions to what's going on. All right, the solution is going to come in changing people, and we do that by individually sharing ideas and coming up with a narrative that's better than what the other person can do. And then as
hearts and minds,
in communities, we change the society in which we live in, which in turn changes the politics, and it starts running uphill. The AstroTurf centralized politics that the left pushes you mentioned it earlier, Sterling, how it stifles innovation, right? And the most important innovation we've got going on right now is getting people to grow intellectually and understanding what their liberties are and what their agency is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. Z-Man, take it away, brother.
Cultivating a community of free thinkers can lead to significant personal benefits by encouraging individuals to explore their own ideas and beliefs. This exploration fosters self-awareness, creativity, and the development of critical thinking skills. People who engage in free thinking are often more adaptable, open to new experiences, and better equipped to navigate the complexities of life. On a societal level, a community of free thinkers contributes to the diversity of thought, which is essential for innovation and progress. Diverse perspectives challenge the status quo and promote a culture of inquiry, where questioning and debating ideas is encouraged. This environment can lead to breakthroughs in science, technology, and social policies, driving the advancement of society as a whole.
Boom. Agreed 100%, man.
A community of free thinkers can also promote tolerance and understanding among individuals. By valuing different viewpoints, such a community reduces the likelihood of conflict and fosters a sense of mutual respect. This can lead to more harmonious and cooperative societies, where people are more likely to work together to address common challenges and build a better future. UP out.
Nailed it, brother.
Yep, see. He didn't say UP out.
Yeah, that's a good tactic.
Yeah. So are we getting near the end of this shindig there, Zach? We are? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do a little self-promotion here, and it's not really self-promotion. It's something that I think is really important. Okay. So our community has become more actively involved in the politics in this area. And Tag over at Life Done Free just started a YouTube channel called the Northeast Kansas Open Government Channel, right? And what it is, we are videotaping these meetings that we're going to, and we're putting them up uncensored, except for whenever personal information is out there, right? Monday the 19th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, the only time zone that matters. I'm having a discussion, a live discussion with Indiana Mike, who's one of our community members, and Tag. And we're going to be talking about how individually and as a community, people can become more involved in local politics and how to create and spend social capital, right? I'd really encourage everybody. I'm going to try to sit back and not do very much talking, because these two guys, Mike has been instrumental in getting the community involved and traversing the obstacles that they will throw out in front of us. And then Tag is probably one of the best people I know for creating this social and political. I've never met anybody that's quite as good as he is.
Nice. And I just showed your scheduled stream for the 19th. Oh, you're breaking out a bit, Grumpy. Breaking up. Sorry.
Okay.
That was me. We've got storms rolling in.
Nice. So Grumpy Acres Farm on August 19th. Local government reimagined. It starts with you. Boom! I just gave it your first thumbs up.
There you go. Thank you. I hope to see everybody there.
You okay, buddy?
Notify me. Boom, hit the bell. Grumpy Acres Farm, right over here. Mayhem Studios, up there.
What's that?
Common Censored, down here. Unique Prepping, up top. Yeah.
I'm going to hit Zach up a third time. This will be the third time we've done this tonight. Zach, you need to share some of that gold.
Any final thoughts on tonight's topic, guys?
Well, I thought it was a lot of fun. I think that critical thinking, free thinking is a really important thing for society as a whole, to encourage diversity of thought and innovation and development, and to maintain freedom and to maintain the ideals of the republic, which they're trying to breed out of us and program out of us. So we need to encourage critical thinking, get the kids on logical reasoning early on with the critical thinking cards, the logical fallacy cards, practicing logic. And it's critical to maintain a free society, guys. That's what I think. Looks like we lost Grumpy. What do you think, Mike? Oh, Grumpy's back. What do you think, Grumpy?
I think Starlink's about ready to die on me because of the storm rolling in. Listen, guys, these are skills that you need to practice, and if you don't exercise these skills, they will atrophy.
You don't use it, you lose it. Lost Grumpy again. Yeah, Starlink must be failing as the storm rolls in. Damn you, Elon!
Oh no. I said I had such high hopes for you, Elon. No.
Yep.
No, I mean, what I would say is, don't be afraid to go against the grain, and don't be afraid to set your emotions aside and listen to the other side, because I think everybody wants to be heard. And if you have emotions in a discussion, you're not going to want to listen to the other person, and you will discover that you have a lot in common. And little promotion for myself. If you guys want to check us out, we have a website. If you go to starsar.org, that's Special Tactics Aid and Rescue. That's my search and rescue organization's website right there. And you can subscribe, put your email in there, and any newsletter or update to the website or whatever, you'll be notified. And it's still under
Boom.
construction. We'll have, yeah, we'll that's the home page, but we're gonna have an about page where you get to have a little biography about me and several of the others, and we'll have a donate page, and we have an application. So if you live in Arkansas and you want to apply and volunteer, there's our applications up there. But yeah, be open. Be as open as you can. You know, I know sometimes it's easier said than done because, you know, some trigger words might get you to shut down and not want to speak to somebody else. But yeah, the more that we open our ideals and our thoughts, the more innovative we can become. And remember, oh, I didn't see that, but, and also, like I always say, a people of sheep read a government of wolves.
Boom. And democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what to eat for dinner.
Right, exactly.
Make sure to check out uniqueprepping.com as well, guys. Hit up Unique Prepping, get everything unique. Check out the products. Make sure to hit up his sponsors, Survival Nutrition, Hunter Brothers Coffee, with code UNIQUE10 for 10% off.
Right.
Check out the merch, Unique Prepping. You can contact Zach over here as well. Unique Prepping on YouTube. Learn about harvesting food, box open reveals, canning, Unique's adventures, all kinds of fun stuff, as you guys know, since you're already here on the YouTube channel. But check out the products, load up on your merch, and make sure to support Unique Prepping. Z-Man!
Yeah. Oh, here's a little joke for you, Zach. How do you
Escaping the system and embracing free thinking requires a conscious effort to break away from societal norms and expectations. This process demands courage and a willingness to question everything, including long-held beliefs and traditions. It is about reclaiming individual autonomy and resisting the pressures to conform. Becoming a free thinker opens up new avenues for personal growth and self-discovery. It allows for the exploration of ideas that might otherwise be suppressed or ignored. By thinking independently, individuals can develop a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them, leading to a more fulfilling and authentic life. The impact of free thinking extends beyond the individual. When people break free from the constraints of the system, they contribute to a culture of innovation and change. This culture challenges the status quo and fosters environments where creativity and progress thrive, benefiting society as a whole. The journey to becoming a free thinker is ongoing and requires continuous self-reflection and adaptation. It is a path that not everyone is willing to take, but for those who do, the rewards are profound. By escaping the system and embracing free thinking, individuals can live more meaningful lives and contribute to a better, more enlightened world. With this said, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and share this video. It helps the community keep growing and reach more freedom fighters just like you. Thank you for joining us tonight, and I love you all. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Galatians 5:16 KJV.
Nice.
All right.
Do we have time to hear Mike's joke before we roll?
Joke for you. I got a joke for you, Zach. How do you surprise Zach? You don't know? You sneak up on him.
Good one. Good one. Mike Mayhem. Fuck yeah. JJR, thanks so much for being here, bro. Appreciate ya. Boom, our newest mod over on Common Censored.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Ratty little me. You have a great night too. Happy hump day, everybody.
Yep.
Sharing is indeed caring.
Thanks, Milo. Hey guys, this video is a replay of a live that I did over on Unique Prepping last week. And it's about a 2-hour video. I was on there with Zach and Mike and Lord Sterling. And we were talking about how essential the ideas of critical thinking and free thinking are in just managing our daily lives and building a community. So take some time, watch it. Like I said, it's about 2 hours long. Don't feel like you have to eat it up all in one bite. If you're new to the channel, you make it to the end, you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and share it out. And just, hey, enjoy and go live a life done free. Thanks, Milo.